A very good afternoon to our respected principal, vice principal, our chief guest, Dr. Boishakhi Mitra, all our esteemed guest speakers, teachers, and dear students. As an auspicious beginning to our event, I would request each one of you to join us for a short prayer.
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्वेषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Thank you. I now request our respected principal ma'am, who has always been supportive and encouraging of the activities of the club, to kindly address the gathering.
Good afternoon to all our esteemed guests present here. On behalf of the management of Shri Shri Academy, Kolkata, I would like to welcome all interested participants here, and especially our resource people, our chief guest, Dr. Boishakhi Mitra, Head Department of Museology, Rabindra Bharati University, accompanied by the other esteemed guests, Dr. Arpita Ghosh, Cultural Heritage Expert and Textile Conservation, Colonel retired S.R. Banerjee, Wildlife and Forest Conservation, and Mr. Anindya Basu, Architect Conservation of Built Heritage. Thank you for taking this time out. I am sure this is going to be an enriching experience hearing you talk about your interest, your lives, and I hope we will get to know how you chanced upon these careers. I often feel that this is one of the most important aspects of education, knowing where you've come from, what is your heritage, whether it is your community, your state, your country, built and natural heritage. Personally, I come from Lucknow, which is surrounded by built heritage and other cultural mores. I have grown up in a very multicultural surrounding, and I truly love that fabric of different communities, different traditions, sharing that we really miss today. And we really and passionately want our children to be able to carry this attitude of caring for the past in every way. The other thing is when I do travel, and recently I've traveled a little outside our country, I notice a lot of pride that people take when they tell us about their country's history, whether it's Scotland, even about invasions. Even the cab driver is so well informed. Whether you take career in conservation, restoration is one aspect, but to be informed, every child, every citizen of this country needs to understand and synthesize that information into their lives to decide where we go from here. So I love the museums. I spend a lot of time in museums, and you get a feel of the city. You understand the past and you understand its present character from these places. So thank you once again, and looking forward to a very interesting interaction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your beautiful memory and inspiring us. We will now commence with our program. Our speakers will share their experiences in combining mainstream careers with a deep commitment to conservation of our nation's heritage. We also believe that we don't necessarily need a degree in history in order to develop respect for our heritage, because heritage belongs to everyone. I now call on Somya Arushi Khuzur of Class 12E to introduce our chief guest, Dr. Boishakhi Mitra.
Our chief guest, Dr. Boishakhi Mitra, is Assistant Professor and the Head of Department of Museology, Rabindra Bharati University, as well as Curator-in-Chief of the Rabindra Bharati Museum, where she has served since 2005. She has won international laurels and been selected as a Fulbright Nehru Scholar, a Chevening Scholar, and a Charles Wallace Fellow. She has authored and co-authored several national and international publications. Dr. Mitra was educated at Loreto Day School, Sealdah, Lady Brabon College, and Calcutta University. Her specialization is museum PR and marketing, heritage education and interpretation. I request Boishakhi ma'am to kindly address the gathering. Ma'am, you're muted.
Yeah, now can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We
Yes,
can
ma'am,
hear
yes.
you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for such a kind introduction. And I really appreciate the way that Sri Sri Academy has come up with this idea of celebrating the World Heritage Week. And I think this should be followed by other schools too. Incidentally, when I heard that this program was being organized, I felt very happy because usually during this time in a normal situation, museums and departments that deal with heritage would have a lot of programs going on. Unfortunately, this year with the lockdown and now with the unlock phase that we have, most schools and colleges are closed, and so there is not much program. So when I heard for the first time, Anuradha told me that they're organizing this webinar, it was really very thrilling, and I felt that at least somebody is doing something about the week. Now, coming to Principal Ma'am said that we should be speaking about our own experiences in this field. Now, coming to my experience, I did my graduation in zoology, and then I went to study wildlife biology at Dehradun. Because of some health issues, I couldn't continue with my wildlife biology course, and I had to come back to Calcutta. By the time I came back to Calcutta, all the MSc Masters Zoology seat at Baligan Science College had filled up, and I had no other option but to study museology. Frankly speaking, when I applied for museology, I had very little idea about how the subject goes. And my professors in museology told me that you have enough marks, you apply next year and get into zoology. But I didn't want to waste a year, and I just went on to study museology, which I found to be a fascinating subject. Let me give you a little overview of what the subject consists of. Um, Basically, people who come in from arts, like doing history especially, or from science background, um, botany, zoology, anthropology, archaeology, they do very well in this line. And besides being subject specialists, museologists are also trained to manage museums, like museum administration. They do museum building, planning. They are helped by the architects, but they are also part of the team when the museum buildings come up. And then there is the conservation part of it, where they specialize either in organic conservation of organic items or inorganic items. Organic meaning wood, paper, and things like that, and inorganic is metal, stone, and things. So we have specialization for that too. I basically specialized in museum management, and I went on to do my PhD in museum marketing, and then I went on to do my another specialization in museum education from UK. And frankly speaking, on retrospect, now that I think back, I've been in this line for 25 years now that I think back, probably had I done zoology, I wouldn't have had so much variety in my life as I do after doing museology. I have traveled across the world because of my subject. I have interacted with many interesting people. I have worked in many big museums, all even in India as well as abroad. So now that I look back, I really don't regret. Maybe the first time I went into the college doing museology, I was a little skeptic. And my relatives, when they heard that I'm doing museology, they asked me, "Oh, so I didn't know you sang so well." And I used to say, "Well, I don't sing in this subject. I learned how to manage museums." So museology, from the time I started learning it in my MA first year to now, today, standing in the present day, has evolved a lot, technique wise, in their content, in every way it has improved a lot. And by itself, it's a very strong discipline as in 2020, as we go into 2021, it's a very strong discipline. It is being taught in 12 universities in the world, of which in India, of which two are in Calcutta, the university, and Ravindra Bharati, my university. The specialization that my university gives is in conservation of artifacts, which is organic and inorganic, organic, as I told you. And we also have a very strong tie-up with the National Research Laboratory at Lucknow, where the students go every year to have hands-on training. And then they further train there after passing out the masters in museology. And they then get into various kinds of projects that are happening across India in the research field and in the heritage conservation field. So especially related to conservation, I think museology has a very bright future. And India, as you know, it has a 5,000-year-old history, and there are lots of items that we need to take care of, but we don't have the expertise, especially in case of metal and textile. There is the dearth of good conservationists, and even in painting conservation and things like that, we need to be trained, highly trained people. Often the students that pass out, they go abroad to get training in different branches of conservation, and they come back and they contribute heartily to the saving of heritage in India. So this is also a day when I would like to create some awareness about the subject of museology and the prospect that young students would have if they choose this as a line, especially the conservation part of it, where every museum has a conservation unit and there are conservation personnel working there. And it's a very enriching experience to be a part of a community who strives to save the heritage of the country, especially our heritage, which is so rich and so vibrant. So thank you all. I won't take much time. I welcome everybody on this program, and I wish everybody the best, especially the students who are a part of this program, a very bright future, and a very bright future to Sri Sri Academy as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for setting the tone so perfectly for our event, for sharing your life experiences, and you also helped our students who could think of museology as a career option. It has lots of scope. Thank you, ma'am. We now proceed with the next segment of the event, where our students will introduce our esteemed speakers present with us today. Lieutenant Colonel S.R. Banerjee, Dr. Arpita Ghosh, Mr. Anindya Basu, and also our very own moderator, Ms. Sachika Ghosh. I would also like to inform you all that we had another guest speaker, Mr. Aditya Poddar, who unfortunately could not join us today. Over to you, students.
Lieutenant Colonel Shakti Ranjan Banerjee, retired, is presently the Honorary Director of Wildlife Protection Society of India. He served in the Indian Army as a commissioned officer for 26 years. He established the ecological cell in the Army headquarters in 1986 and assisted in the formulation of environmental policies within the Indian Army. He subsequently was the State Director of WWF India, West Bengal for 9 years. He's been the Honorary Wildlife Warden, Government of India, Government of West Bengal for Calcutta and Darjeeling districts from 1992 to 2018. A member of the State Wildlife Advisory Board, West Bengal from 1998 to 2007, and was associated with the All India Jeev Raksha Bishnoi Sabha in the protection of black bucks in northern Rajasthan. This included encouraging alternative employment generation and awareness programs among the non-Bishnois to protect the wildlife in northern Rajasthan. He received a silver medal and a commendation certificate in 1989 for the conservation of wildlife. His work in Sundarbans earlier while in WWF India and now with the WESI includes activities such as environmental awareness program, generation of alternative livelihood, and afforestation programs. So, we give you a warm Shreen welcome.
Dr. Arpita Ghosh. She is a guest lecturer in the Department of Museology, Rabindra Bharati University, and a conservation professional. After graduating with botany honors from the University of Calcutta, she achieved a master's degree in museology and conservation from Rabindra Bharati University. She acquired professional conservation training from the National Research Laboratory for Conservation Property in Lucknow and was selected for a UGC fellowship in museology. She became a research scholar in textile conservation at Rabindra Bharati University, where she completed her PhD in museology. She has been teaching in the museology department since 2009 and also works as a conservation professional for safeguarding the rich cultural heritage of India. Ma'am, we welcome you to our event.
A graduate of Department of Architecture, Jadavpur University, Mr. Anandya Basu started his career in 1990 as a design team member for the Hotel E Fort, Raichakon Sea, a benchmark project for private tourism in West Bengal. Winner of several design awards at student and professional level. He is a visiting faculty at Jadavpur University, IIEST Shibpur, and Om Dayal College of Architecture, Havra. He is an active member in INTAC and he visited Germany in 2014 in connection with collaborative work with INTAC in Acharya Bhavan, a proposed science heritage museum inside the house of Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose, as a part of an Indian delegation for design of museums within the heritage buildings. His firm provides design consultation services in related fields of architecture, landscape, building, conservation. So, we welcome you to this event.
Miss Sachika Ghosh. She completed her BA in History from Loreto College in 2017 and MA in History from Calcutta University in 2019. She has always been passionate about making academic research more accessible and engaging. During her tenure at Heritage Walk Calcutta, she realized this passion by conducting research based walking tours across the city, along with working on documentation projects aimed at preserving the material and cultural heritage of Bengal. She has been associated with Sri Sri Academy as a heritage consultant, assisting the Heritage Club by conducting presentations and workshops. She has also worked with the Future Foundation School. As a recipient of the Sahapedia UNESCO Fellowship in 2020, she is currently working on the subject of women in the Naxalite movement. Her areas of interest include gender and politics in South Asia, urban heritage, and ethical and sustainable heritage tourism. Ma'am, we welcome you to our event.
Thank you, students. Miss Sachika, we are glad to have you here. And now I happily hand over our event to you.
And thank you so much, Sushma ma'am. And thank you to all our esteemed speakers for being here today. So I'd like to start with Colonel Banerjee. Sir, I understand that you wish to speak to us about wildlife conservation with a particular emphasis on the Sundarbans region, which has been recognized as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. So I was wondering, sir, if you can perhaps share some of your experiences in working in this field. Can we also have the PowerPoint presentation? Yes, thank you. Sir, you're muted, sir. Colonel Banerjee, you're muted. If you could just unmute yourself.
Sir, you're muted.
Sir, we cannot hear you, sir. You're muted. If you can please unmute yourself. Oh, sir, still. Just a second. Um, Sir, we still cannot hear you.
Arnav, sir, if you could just unmute, sir. I think you have the
I have
option.
sent a notification, ma'am, but he is not responding.
Just a second.
Sir Colonel Banerjee, are you able to hear us? Miss Sachika, I think maybe
Yes.
we can give him some time and maybe we can
Yes.
move to the next speaker. And meanwhile, I'll try to get in contact with him.
Sure. Then can we perhaps move on?
I think he's open.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
sorry, there was a little-
Well, it's okay, sir. A few technical difficulties are to be expected.
Okay, now can I start?
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Okay, sorry. Sorry for the disruption. This within the World Heritage Week, I must talk about a World Heritage Site. Now, this is a natural site. You have many sites of World Heritage, as was already spoken, and we are talking about a natural site, that is Sundarbans. We have natural sites like Kaziranga National Park. We have wildlife sanctuary in Assam like Manas Tiger Reserve. You have Kolade National Park in Rajasthan and Kanchenjunga National Park in Sikkim, and Sundarban is the next World Heritage Site, which is near our home now. Now here, uniqueness of Sundarban Forest. It is the largest delta in the world, formed by the Ganges and Brahmaputra in both India and Bangladesh. Can I have the next, please? Yeah. You can see there is a delta formed, and this is the largest delta in the world, which is formed by the Hooghly and Brahmaputra on the Bangladesh side. And between India and Bangladesh, it is a forest of 10,000 square kilometer of forest. So this is one of the uniqueness. It is the largest mangrove forest in the world. Even you take both India and Bangladesh, individually also, each forms the largest mangrove in the world. No other mangrove you have of this size. It is the only mangrove in the world where you find tigers. Now that species we are talking about, the majestic species of India, tiger. It is found in both India and Bangladesh side. You also have it is in 1987, actually, this was declared as World Heritage Site. And it is also under the concept of Man and Biosphere Reserve. Sundarban is also a biosphere reserve as far as Indian side is concerned. The Bangladesh side they don't consider, but both sides equally is, it is a similar type of a terrain and same mangroves. Now, coming to that, everybody will have doubt about what is mangroves. Mangroves are basically, you'll find that the land between the sea and the mainland. If you see in the map itself, you can see the sea below, and upper is that all our human activities, like even up to Kolkata. Between the mainland and this, and they are actually with terrain, they have these species of trees which are salt tolerant species. You have one is pneumatophores or breathing roots. You know, the roots, like normal trees, the roots are going down. The roots will be coming up for breathing in the air, because out of 24 hours, every 6 hours there is high tide, every 6 hours low tide. So they will be underwater for some time. So as a result, for breathing, the roots come up. That is known as pneumatophores. You also have certain species, stilt roots, which is a supporting root that is still coming up and supporting the tree. As a result, the trees are held very strongly. And as you would be knowing, that big storms, etc., which are coming, they first come to the shore And from there it is coming up to our mainland, but they protect the mainland from all these hail, storms, everything. Now see we had recently the Amphan, the great storm. Before that we had Bulbul. All these, Calcutta also was affected, but had it not been Sundarban there, we would have been very badly affected. Water would have been standing everywhere and all. This is saving it. So that's why mangroves are very important. Here also these are the alluvial soil where the mangrove come up. Now, as I have said, the total, the forested areas is 10,000 square kilometer. And in Indian side, we have the Sundarban Tiger Reserve and we have certain forest. If you look at the map, you will find those areas are little dark colored. These are actually the forest. And the green part is the Sosnekhali Sanctuary, Sosnekhali Wildlife Sanctuary. This is part of Sundarban. Now you find there is a red border. This red bordering is all the Sundarban Tiger Reserve. And right of the, as you look on the left side of the, that is western side, eastern side, this is actually the Bangladesh side. And left side, you find certain forests. There are also 24 division forest. So that combined together is Sundarban Tiger Reserve. So we have this Sundarban Tiger Reserve in which, and Bangladesh side, they have 6,000 square kilometer of forest, which are actually same. It is similar, but the salinity of this side is a little more higher, and hence, the trees on Indian side is a little smaller than the Bangladesh side. But you have trees like, now how the Sundarban name has come up. The Sundarban name, probably there is a tree known as Sundari in scientific, in Latin we'll call it, scientific name it is, this is Heritaria fomes. So that, and there
Colonel Banerjee, you've been muted again. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, so these are the total species you find here in the, what you call, as far as the plants are concerned. So now I'll go into, I was talking about how the name has come, derived Sundarban, probably from Sundari tree, Heritaria fomes, or Samundarban. Samundarban means forest of the sea. So, as you can see, it is the forest of the sea. And third possibility is Sundarban is beautiful forest. And I can assure you this is really a beautiful forest. So this is Sundarban. If anybody has the opportunity to go there, I'm sure you will enjoy it tremendously. Next, please. Next slide, please. Now, His Majesty the tiger, His Majesty, Her Majesty, but it is His Majesty, of course. This tiger is a place in Sudarnokhali. This photograph has been taken by one Dr. Tanmay Chaudhary. Now, you can see this tiger is the main species of what you call the major species in among the Sundarban animals. You have the cat species, the tiger is the major, and then you have three other, that is fishing cats, you have jungle cat, you have leopard cats. So tiger is the king in the forest, you can say anyway. And definitely, as I have already said, only mangrove where tiger is found. No other mangrove in the world you find tigers. So I'm sure this is, people go there to see tigers, but I can assure you that Sundarban is so beautiful, you should know that tiger is there, that's all. and you will see some pug marks. Not necessary. Tiger is elusive in Sundarban, there is no doubt, because of the terrain constraint, because you are going in by the water. Next, please. Now here you can see how tiger has to survive in this. Unlike the other upland forests, here you see he is all the time in the mud. You can see this. You can see the roots next to the tiger, both sides. They are known as stilt root. I was telling you the supporting roots. This is a Rhizophora species, Gordjon. That is a species which is a stilt root. And the tiger, you can see it has to walk. Then you will find new metaphors which are coming up. It is like, it is like a thorn sort of a thing. You literally hurt yourself sometimes. So that new metaphor is also there. So tigers living is very hard here. And as is already told by many scientists have seen, the tigers in Sundarban are the same species which we call Bengal tiger, Royal Bengal tiger, or Panthera tigris. That is the Indian species, Indian tiger, but its size is small, smaller than the other one. If you see a tiger here will weigh, a male weigh around 150 kg, whereas in say Bandhavgarh or that side, the tiger will weigh about 190 kgs or something. So that is the difference. Otherwise, this tiger is strong, agile, because they have to live in a state of agility. Next, please. Next, please. Next slide. Next. No, next slide, please. No. Next slide, please.
Just a minute, sir. I think Vishal is trying to share his screen. I think there's a slight technical error. Just a second.
It was nicely done up. Yeah. This is, you can see swimming tiger. That is one of the reasons why tiger is slim in this place. You see, it has to swim anywhere. Cross one creek to another side, one side to another side through a creek or a river. And excellent swimmers. They can swim at ease 7 to 8 kilometers, no problem. So that is a very, keep them agile and fit. They are unlike little heavier part, which other tigers you find in other parts of the country. Next, please. Now, these are tiger pug marks. Now you can see the muddy region. This is actually, this tiger is also known as swamp tiger or mangrove tiger. But it is, as I have said, is the same species, not a different species at all. Now you can see how it's moving through the pug marks, and they are many times visible when you are moving about. You know the tiger is there. You may not see him or her, but you will know it is there. Next, please. Now, tiger is, of course, the major animal you find here, but you also have, this is a small clawed otter. The small clawed otter are found. They're also not so much as you find in, you will be able to see, you feel that you'll go to the jungle and see, you may or may not see, but the otters are there and they are part of the ecosystem. And this is a very rich in biodiversity. Sundarban, that's one very important thing. Next, please. The early morning, it's beautiful. When you are going through the forest, even you don't see anything, you will see the jungle with rising sun or with the setting sun. It's lovely, I can assure you. Next, please. Now, on the land is a tiger, in water is crocodile. This is a species of estuarian crocodile. This is Crocodylus porosus, which is, you find the 3 types of crocodiles in India. This is a saltwater crocodile, or estuarine crocodile. This is the largest. And you have inland crocodile or the mugger or freshwater crocodile. And you have the Gavius gangeticus or the gharial. Gharial are fish-eating crocodiles. They are, you must have seen, they are very harmless. This one is the one again which attacks human beings. And as I was talking about the tiger is, there is a, people think that tiger in Sundarbans are man-eaters. Actually, it is a very typical situation where many people get killed by tiger and even eaten by tigers when they move into the forest. But many times the tiger comes into the villages. I have had the occasion of having tiger within the villages. When I was there, we had to get it tranquilized and get it sent to the wild. So these tigers, when they come to the villages, they do not harm any human beings. So technically, you cannot term it as a man-eater, because man-eater is, you find all the books like Jim Corbett and others, where the tiger, when it became man-eater, it would come to the villages and pick up human beings. But here they never pick up human beings in the villages. There is no record like this. And it may be occasionally by mistake some killing has taken place, not for killing's sake, but it's accident. But otherwise, tigers do not kill human beings in the villages. But in the jungle, there are many people get killed. People have to go for honey collection. People have to go for, though nowadays they have stopped that coupe system or going into for cutting wood. That has been stopped because of human lives. But this crocodile is also very attacking type, and there is well known for killing many people. So that is another aspect of, tiger also attacking, crocodile also attacking. They're all because the terrain is very hostile for everything. Next, please. This is an adjutant stork. It's a lesser adjutant. This is one of the birds you find in Sundarban moving about, and it's a huge bird actually. Next, please. Now, other than crocodile, you have, this is water monitor. You have monitors there, like lizard, but they're big, they're same species actually. And water monitor is so huge, sometimes it can be mistaken for a small crocodile. And you can, these are also found in Sundarban. One of the, like snakes, you find many of the snakes from king cobra, then monocle cobra or Ceutia. So this is also one of those reptiles. Crocodile is the largest, of course. Next, please. And spotted deer. Spotted deer and you find the wild boar, they form the main food species of the tiger. The other species are very small, like leopard cat and fishing cat for fishing. And also you'll be surprised that tigers also need aquatic food, because it is a semi-aquatic life they have to lead in Sundarbans. So it is cheetal or spotted deer, you have the wild boar, and at times they are also well known for taking fish. So that is known. That somebody said jokingly that Bengali tigers so eating fish. But because of the life is like this. Next, please. Next.
I'm sorry, there's some problems. The screen is getting freeze.
Okay, let me set. But I'll just keep on speaking because I don't want to just keep quiet. So, so that is the problem. And best part of Sundarban, people walking there, you find the rhesus macaque. They are also in a way found some food chain of the tiger, and they are available, which you find rhesus macaques or monkeys. They are also found in abundance. Now, if you see the terrain, you look at the what you call bank side and bank what you call see there are new metaphors you can see. You can see small roots coming out, coming up, breathing into the air. If you see carefully, these are the breathing roots I was talking about. Next, please. Now, this is a important tree here is Phoenix pallidosa or Phoenix palm, or in local terms they call hetal. You find see the what you call color of the leaves. It's yellow and green. So they find a perfect hiding place for the tigers here. That's why it is very famous that this hetal forest or the Phoenix palm forest, they are well known for tiger living, staying in and hiding for them. Also, if any of you know a little bit of those botany and all, you know that first succession, second, like that is the last succession in the case of how the formation of the trees and etc. Like in land, the grass comes in the first succession. This is the last. That means it is a matured forest, and it won't be so much of coming in the water as such. So that is also another reason maybe it's a little drier comparatively than the other forest. This is one of the mangroves you find in Sundarban, one of the species of mangroves. Next, please. And of course, people have to go there for the livelihood, for fishing, etc. by these boats. Now, these boats easily, sometimes they get killed, many people killed by tigers, because tiger, they will be going into the creeks, small creeks, halting at night for fishing, and many times they get caught. And many people, you must have heard, sometimes some fishermen got killed, or somebody have gone to catch crabs, etc. They get killed. So this is what actually people lose their lives also. But at the same time, they have for their livelihood, they have to also go. So it is a question of their alternative livelihood required. When I was as WWF, also from WPSI, we have been trying to get alternative livelihoods to the people so that they do not have to go to the forest. If you grow things within the villages, they don't have to go. So then obviously your chances of getting killed by tigers become less. Not only tigers, even the crocodiles are there. There's a particular shark known as Kamont or dog shark, which literally scoops out flesh from the people. So sharks are here. You have bull shark. Bull sharks also attack human beings. So the life in the water is very, not very safe. And that is why you will find nobody swimming there. Nobody swims that side. So this is what the Sundarban is all about. And I'm sure its time is very short. And since I can guess that we'll have to finish at a particular time. So otherwise, it's a very fast subject. It takes a lot of time. So I think, thank you for listening to me. And I could, little bit, whatever I could, I only say I've only given a little bit of Sundarbans because there are many more aspects of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your experiences of working in the Sundarbans region with us. I definitely agree with you. It's beautiful. And now, as you also mentioned that because we have a time constraint, otherwise we would have loved to continue listening to your experiences. So now moving on from wildlife conservation to the subject of preservation of cultural heritage, I'd like to call upon Dr. Arpita Ghosh. Ma'am, could you perhaps explain to us and explain to our students what constitutes cultural heritage and why is it and how can we go about the task of restoring and preserving it? So could we hear from you, ma'am?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. You're audible.
Okay. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to Sri Sri Academy to organize such a wonderful webinar, especially for the senior school students, to make them aware of our heritage, culture, and preservation, conservation of our heritage property. And I feel that I am fortunate enough to got the opportunity to speak in this webinar to share my experience with them, because youth empowerment nowadays is very necessary in the field of heritage and conservation. So without wasting my time, I think I should start my presentation. Next, please. Okay. So what is heritage? Heritage is anything. Heritage can be anything that we inherited from our ancestors. It can be a land, it can be an ecosystem, it can be a monument, it can be any physical or material object that related to our past, our rich cultural heritage, or any belief, any customs, any knowledge, any traditions, anything that can be heritage. And World Heritage is the designation for places on Earth that are of outstanding universal value to humanity, and as such are have been inscribed on the World Heritage list, like the Taj Mahal in India, Agra Fort in India, Ajanta Ellora caves in India, or pyramid in Egypt. These are all World Heritage sites. There are also few natural World Heritage sites like Kaziranga, like Sundarban. They are also natural World Heritage sites. Next, please. Now, the classification of heritage. Heritage can be classified into three broad heads, that is cultural, natural, as well as mixed. Cultural heritage means it's the legacy of physical artifacts and intangible attributes of a group of society that is inherited. Natural heritage refers to the elements of biodiversity, ecosystem, and geological structure. And mixed means there should be some cultural heritage and natural heritage. Now, cultural heritage is again subdivided into, the previous one, please. Okay, thank you. Now, the cultural heritage is subdivided into two broad heads, that is tangible and intangible. Tangible means the thing or the artifacts that you can touch or you can see. And intangible means that it is the customs or traditions or some art, like a song, like a dance that you can feel from your heart. That is called the intangible cultural heritage. Now, tangible is again subdivided into three broad heads, that is movable, immovable, and underwater. Movable means the artifact, especially like it can be a painting, it can be a metal, it can be a coin, it can be a textile that related to our rich cultural heritage, that is movable cultural heritage. And immovable means mainly the monuments or the architectures like Shanchi Stup, like Taj Mahal. These are all immovable cultural heritage. And underwater means the shipwreck, vessels, sorry, just a minute. The shipwrecks or vessels or some part of some underwater architectural heritage, that is called underwater cultural heritage. Next, please. These are some pictures of tangible cultural heritage. You can see in this picture that Taj Mahal, it is a immovable cultural heritage. The big sculpture which we can't move from one place to another, these are all tangible cultural heritage. Other than that, the paintings, the manuscripts, the textiles, some wooden sculptures, or maybe some coins, maybe some metal artifacts, these are all come into the movable cultural heritage. Next, please. Now, the intangible cultural heritage and natural heritage. Here are some pictures. Here are some pictures of Sundarban, the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, Kaziranga National Park. These are all natural heritage sites. And the Chou Nach or the Karbelia Nach or the Katha stitch of Bengal or the Vedic chanting or the Raban Chaya, these are all the intangible cultural heritage of India. Next, please. Now, what is museum? So we have rich cultural heritage and we have to store it in certain building. So museum basically a building in which objects of historical, scientific, artistic, or cultural interest are stored or exhibited. But there are committee that is called ICOM, that is International Council of Museum, they also coined a definition of museum, and it should be modified from time to time. So here is the definition that museums are democratizing, inclusive and polyphonic spaces for critical dialogue about the past and the futures, acknowledging and addressing the conflicts and challenges of the present. They hold artifacts and specimens in trust for society's safeguard diverse memory for future generation and guarantee equal rights and equal access to heritage for all people. Museums are not for profit, they are participatory and transparent and work in active partnership with and for diverse community to collect, preserve, research, interpret, exhibit, and enhance understanding of the world, aiming to contribute to human dignity and social justice, global equality, and planetary well-being. Next, please. These are some famous museums in India, that is Victoria Memorial, Indian Museum, Science City, it is also a museum. Then next, My University and Museum, Rabindra Bharati Museum, then National Museum, and then Bal Bhavan. There are few museums in India. Next, please. Now, I'm coming to my topic, that is conservation and preservation. Now, conservation and preservation of artifacts is the main part of a museum where we have to protect our rich cultural heritage by means of conservation and preservation. Conservation is all measures and actions aimed at safeguarding tangible cultural heritage while ensuring its accessibility to present and future generations. Conservation embraces preventive conservation, remedial conservation, and restoration. Now, preventive conservation is a very crucial part of preservation. Like we all say that prevention is better than cure, so we must give emphasis on preventive conservation. All measures and actions aimed at avoiding and minimizing future deterioration or loss of an antique object or heritage property. These measures and actions are indirect. They do not interfere with the materials and structure of the items. Then the remedial conservations. When an object is deteriorated and we can't prevent it, then we do this remedial conservation. That is, some interference is happened to the object. Like it says, all actions directly applied to an antique object or heritage property aimed at arresting current damaging processes or reinforcing their structure. These actions are only carried out when the items are in such a fragile condition or deteriorating at such a rate that they could be lost in a relatively short time. These actions sometimes modify the appearance of the items. Now, restoration. Restoration is specially related to architectural buildings and paintings because all actions directly applied to a single stable object aimed at facilitating its appreciation, understanding, and use. These actions are only carried out when the item has lost part of its significance or function through past alternation or deterioration. Next, please. Now, these are few pictures of conservation. Here you can see the different types of textile conservation is going here. So, sharing my experience of conservation, that I have to say, it's a tremendous job. You know, it's a tremendous and a very time consuming and very minute job that you have to make in your way. That is, first, when an object comes to your laboratory, you first have to examine it, that what's the problem it have in it. Then you have to document the object in a proper manner, that what problem is arise and what should be the recommended treatment and how this object is stable or not to be, the object should be done with this treatment or not. So you have to document the object with a proper manner, and then you have to conserve the object with the necessity preventive or curative conservation. Next, please. Here are also some conservation pictures. some cleaning of varnish layer, some fixing of plates, ceramic plates. It's a reconstruction of the pottery, ceramic pottery. Here in the next row, there is a picture with where removing of sellotape from a map, then again a stone conservation, and then a metal conservation. Okay, here are some conservation pictures that I have mentioned, shared with you. I can't share all my pictures with you due to some confidentiality issues. So that's all I have to say, that conservation is a very challenging career. If you choose it, you will be very lucky enough. And cultural heritage is something I think that all human beings can share, no matter where you grow up or no matter where you go. You can always take your heritage or culture with you wherever you go. You can take it with you, and you can. I think a student can connect to their past with this heritage and conservation study, and it's a great initiative to protect our rich cultural heritage. So I wish more and more young generation will take this conservation as a profession, and I wish all the students a very bright future ahead of Srishti Academy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your insights on what cultural heritage is and why we need to preserve it, and for showing us that conservation is such a viable profession for the young students that we have with us today. So thank you so much again. Now, last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Anindya Basu here with us. Now, sir, we've learned so much today about both our natural heritage as well as our cultural heritage. Would you like to perhaps add to the discussion by talking about maybe our built heritage, about the conservation strategies, and how these strategies can, if I may put it this way, form the bedrock for industries such as tourism? So, sir, can we now have you speak on this topic? Sir, you're still muted. If you could please unmute yourself. Yes.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you, sir. You're audible.
Okay. So I start by thanking Professor Anuradha Chatterjee for inviting me, and also the principal of Srishti Academy for her very enlightening introduction to how her involvement with heritage and her fascination with heritage. And I also thank the management of Srishti Academy for inviting me, and also yourself for suffering me for these 3 days and my very last minute submission of the PPT. I must also thank my the other panelists here for their very enlightening lectures on different aspects of heritage. And last but not the least, I will start by thanking the students. I would have loved to have met the students in person and talked to them. And I can tell you that I'm going to enjoy, even if no one else enjoys, I will enjoy this presentation of mine, because this is a subject that I love to obsess myself with. So I hope the students will also enjoy likewise with me about the subject of built heritage. I love traveling, and I love traveling within India very much. And from my young college days, I saw when I was visiting historic sites, mainly other sites as well, that I was very pained to see that we have a total disregard for our own culture. There are telltale signs of abusing the fabric of built heritage, disregarding, then putting graffiti, unnecessary graffiti, putting political posters, and therefore even putting, in the name of ornamentation or beautification, putting very garish, thick stucco work and painting on the original fabric of a monument or an edifice, so much so that the aesthetics and the historic significance of the site starts diminishing, and nobody is really bothered. This was very painful for me. I will, in fact, give you a small note of enlightenment for me, a small anecdote. Many years later, and about 6 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Germany on work, on a collaborative work for a museum. And we were visiting what is the world famous, site. It's the German Parliament, which now they call the Bundestag. Earlier, during the reign of the king, they used to call the Reichstag. So the Bundestag is a remarkable building because it's one of the few parliaments in the world where one part is a functional parliament, where you have the main plenary session of all global politics being discussed and debated. And the other part is a museum, because this building was had gone through the vagaries of time, and this building ultimately fell in the Second World War to the Allied forces, especially the Red Army. So during the fall of the Berlin city, this was one of the last to fall. It was it's a mixed building. So we were being shown around the building by a deputed person, an international lawyer, and a lawyer on international policies, and he was showing us around. And then he said that we were just generally asking questions about why is this, that, and why is this part being showcased in such a bare skeletal manner, because they showcase the entire parliament as it is, and some part is done up, some part is just like a war-ravaged building. It's showcased like that. So he said that, you see, we have to be honest about the building, and we have to tell the story honestly. So we are telling the story of our culture of 800 years. And then he said, but of course, who am I to say this to you? Because your culture is 5,000 years. So who are we as Germans to tell you, to Indians, because your culture is so much more richer and longer. And that is when it struck me that people from outside India, they are so much aware and have so much respect for our traditions, our culture, our heritage, whereas we are not as much aware. It was a pain, but it was a revelation for me as well. So I would say that heritage is important because all of us have memories, and we have selected memories, we have shared memories, but heritage is most important because you don't need a degree in art, or you don't need a degree in history, or you don't need a degree in conservation to be able to serve heritage and to appreciate heritage and to be aware of heritage. Next, please. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. So for the students, let's say I will start with the experience of visiting a mall versus visiting a museum. Everyone today loves malls. Now malls are good time spent with food and friends and films, and they are very swanky and clean, and they are a preferred hangout. But if you go to a museum, the general state of museums in India is not that inspires young minds, and this is another pain, because this is a huge profession, a huge avenue left to be discovered by young minds and also make as a career choices. How to best showcase our heritage and showcase the past, and how to make our museums exciting. See, if you see the two pictures at the bottom of the panel, one is a world famous Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna, which is an art museum, and they have taken such great pains to elevate the visitor to the level of the painting, so the entire panorama of the painting is better discernible. And on the right, it's not a museum, but it's a precinct. It's an open space around which this is a place called Melaka, which is you can say the farthest end of the British Empire, where Calcutta was the second capital. And the Malacca Strait is on the in Malaysia today, where you're seeing the Dutch colonial precinct, all these red buildings, and they have showcased it so beautifully with curio streets and the typical eating houses, shorelines, that you can spend an entire day there. The whole idea is that museum should be such that, like we visit malls today, it should be such that it can be a hangout. You can spend an entire day in a museum or a historical site, in a heritage site. And why is this? Is because the most important is the past tells you a story. Next, please. The past actually tells you a story which a mall may not be able to tell the story in such great detail as a museum. Next slide, please. And the story actually fascinates us. The story for human beings, you can click. The first click will start revealing yes. So we are all suckers for stories. Everybody loves a good story. Why do we love stories? Because we remember, and because we remember means we have memories. We want to share memories. We can have personal memories, we can have private memories, but what we share as memories is our heritage. Memory can be memory can be an old photograph, it can be a wedding card, it can be old jewelry, it can be inscriptions on the wall, it can be heirloom, it can also be intangible, like music, it can be food, it can be folklore. On the right, you have folklore of children's tales from as when we were children. But then it can expand onto precincts, a lamppost, a place where we used to give adda. It can further expand into palatial houses, and then even more into biospheres. All these can be part of our heritage, because all these associate itself with stories. All these things tell you stories. A photograph or a wedding card or a palace with statues, they all tell you stories. They all want to narrate something back to you. And this is what heritage is: shared memories. Can we go on to the next, please? So the fact that I'm showing all these kinds of photographs means that I want to imply that each of these can be associated with professions. For example, if you will see that there are captions given there. You can be into advertising, starting from the right topmost. You can be into advertising profession if you are obsessing with design of cars and design of layouts. You can be in art or movie film restoration. You can be in museology. You can have a profession in art history. You can have in hospitality. You can be in industrial design. You can be in architectural conservation. You can be in environmental science. You can be in anthropology. So I've made a general list of what you can be if can make career choices, which are very niche career choices, not mainstream, not run of the mill, but special. Like you can have a choice in a career in museology, as the previous speaker discussed in such elaborate detail. You can also be a curator, which is how you make a presentation using objects as a narrative benchmark. You showcase several objects and then you tie up all those objects in a narrative thread, and that is curation. Curation is very important for many things, but most important is used in museum. You can have a profession in art history. It can be art restoration. It can be a movie restoration in in the movie industries in the world, the giant industries in the world, there's a huge demand for restoring old movies digitally as well as in an analog way. It can mean you can have a profession with heritage hospitality. You can be a sommelier, which is wine tasting, because wine means you have to know about different kinds of wine, different kinds of vintage, different histories, different areas where they are grown, and so on and so forth. You can be a performing musician. You can also be a musical conservationist. I have a friend who restores old instruments and restores old musical school, bandishes from musical schools. And he spends almost 9 months a year traveling abroad to different universities, disseminating knowledge about India's very varied musical history. You can have a career in cultural anthropology. You can be in heritage or ecotourism. You can be a photographer who specializes in wildlife photography or heritage, because wildlife also is heritage. You can be an environmental scientist. You can also be into product design, which is typically derived from heritage. You can be a jewelry designer. You can be a specialist in travel journalism that focuses on different, and travel generally means heritage. I'll come this in a different slide later. A major part of travel journalism is concerns itself with heritage. You can have heritage publications. Of course, you can be an author on heritage. You can also be an author, a fictional author based on heritage. You can be an etymologist and a specialist in semantics, someone who researches on the origin of the word, and something which is called lexicosemantics, which is concerning the meaning of these the roots of the origin of words, the meaning of codes, and so on and so forth. You can be an archaeologist, somewhat like Indiana Jones. You can be also a marine archaeologist, somebody just mentioned before. Marine archaeology is the study of shipwreck. It is not so much in vogue here, but it is a very fascinating subject around the Mediterranean. About 10 years ago, I went to a place in West Turkey, on the Turkish Mediterranean, place called Bodrum, which had the world's first marine archaeological museum in Bodrum. And what happened was all those Greek islands of, the Greek, Thessaloniki Greeks and Crete and the other islands around, they had a lot of maritime trading going on from early times. And many of these ships, they sunk, carrying with them, they used to call amphoras, like earthen pitchers, amphoras of spice, amphoras of wine, amphoras of oil, and even textiles. So there's a huge research going on, especially around the Mediterranean and also elsewhere, which concerns itself with discovering what our early ancestors were like, what their culture was like, what was the trade routes like, what was the trading in, so that we know the great trading systems around the world, how they used to be operational. So marine archaeology is very important, very fascinating also. Of course, you can make a career choice in architectural conservation, which is what I also, partly make. I'm into mainstream architectural design as well as in conservation. And this is again a fascinating subject. You can also be like Colonel Banerjee. You can be a wildlife conservationist, and it's a very rewarding, extremely gratifying subject, and it's fascinating. It's a very wide subject. So I've given you some glimpses of what all career choices. Some of them are niche career choices that one can have with studying heritage. Next, please.
Sir, sir? I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I'd just like to mention that we're running a little over time, and we have questions coming in from the students because they're very excited.
So 6-7 minutes more.
Okay, sir. I'd just like to.
Yeah. So then Just click onto the slide. Click, please. Can we have the click? Yeah. No, okay. So heritage actually then represents, to put it very formally, the collective memory of the human. No, please go back. Please go back. Please go back. Please, previous slide, please. Yes. So heritage therefore represents the collective memory of the human. No. The one with the blue background. This is the famous Mehrangarh Fort in Jodhpur and the settlement of the blue settlement as we call it. It's at sunset. It's an enchanting sight. So this heritage therefore thereby represents the collective memory of the human race. All human race wants to preserve the collective memory because we all are part of a great ecosystem. I won't go into detail of the three classifications which has been already said, but just bullet points. What is man-made heritage? The monuments, the archaeological sites, the precincts, and so on and so forth. The natural heritage, which is the biosphere with distinctive flora and fauna, mountains, forests, and so on. Even sacred groves, which are sacred to a particular community. And of course, intangible heritage, which is broadly culture, that also can be cuisine, folklore, lifestyle, music, sports, some special sports, even rituals. So this is the gamut of heritage. I can tell you, next slide, please, that one of the world's largest industries globally is tourism. It is, I think, the 10th largest in terms of revenue, which is projected for 2020. It is about $1,500 billion. And the lion's share of tourism around the world is consumed, the demand is only for heritage sites. I've given here a list of the cultural sites, as well as the natural sites, which is natural sites 8, the cultural sites so far 28. And I've tried to highlight some of these sites. I can tell you with some degree of pride that I have made it a point in my lifetime to see all this, and I have covered almost 90% of this. So apart from the four or five sites, I haven't been to Gujarat, and I haven't been to the Kulu National Park, and the Valley of Flowers National Park in Uttarakhand. These two I have not been, but the rest I have gone, and it has been an absolute fascinating revelation for me to know the length and the breadth of the country and its unique, varied cultures, varied lifestyles, food, clothing, rituals. It's been fascinating. And all this is driven, the entire money for tourism is driven only, I can say, by heritage, not malls, not food courts, but heritage mainly. Next slide. And even if you go, next slide. Next slide, please. Hello? Yeah. And even if you go international, if you see on the, no, I'm sorry, the slide before that. Sorry, the slide before that. Yes. And even if you go on an international scale, on a global scale, you will see that all all the global tourism, which is such a huge draw in the world, all the things that we remember about countries are World Heritage Sites designated by UNICEF. UNESCO, and these World Heritage Sites are earmarked and designated so that they are preserved not only by the countries that own them, but as a global community, they need to be preserved so that the collective memory of the human race is preserved, and we have to know how we have evolved and where we are going to evolve. So these are great, magnets, anchors for trade, for tourism, for diplomacy, for political exchanges. All these are, these are benchmarks all around the world. And you see that there's thousands of World Heritage Sites, mostly centered in Europe because they started the movement. But I can tell you that my country and many countries like me, like China, and all these like antecedent countries, countries which have a very rich antiquity, they also have to pack in with many heritage sites, and all these are waiting to be discovered. We have only covered in India about let's say 1/20th of what remains to be discovered and showcased to the world as heritage sites. And we actually, this country can generate a huge amount of revenue by showing this open to the world. That completes my first part of the what I wanted to say about heritage to the young minds. The second part, next slide, a very quick run through on a very unique kind of heritage that I do as a professional, is apart from restoring, let's say, buildings or restoring objects, there's also the concept of trying to restore a precinct, which is an open space around which buildings are there. And if you lose a precinct to the ravages of time, you also can have an architectural exercise in trying to restore a lost precinct. In this case, I'll just very quickly, 5 slides, I'll try to showcase what the kind of work we do. In this case, there was a competition about 3 years ago on trying to revive a lost precinct, which is Serampore, which was a Dutch, you can say, colony, which Serampore in 1777 got transferred to the King of Denmark, to the kingship of the Kingdom of Denmark, directly under Denmark's rule. It was Frederick VI, and he established the first University of Asia, which was the Serampore College. And Serampore also was famous because the first missionaries came and set up the first missionary open free press for disseminating knowledge, for printing books, religious books, or even grammatical books and literature. And we associate this with the name of William Carey, but there were also other people like Joshua Marshman and William Ward, but we mainly associate with the name of William Carey. He set up the first free Baptist press, mission press. And Serampore became a seat of learning. As a suburban town, it became a seat of international learning. And it was a very, very flourishing, even 50 years ago, Serampore was a force to reckon with, because it had a unique college of theology and philosophy. But thereafter, it had fallen on hard times. The trade, it was also a major center for trade. So there was this competition held about 3 years ago by the National Museum of Copenhagen to how to revive and restore the character of Serampore. So our proposal, I'll just have a very quick run through. It's an approach as to how we try to revive heritage. This is a unique exercise in the sense that it's not restoring a building or restoring a statue or restoring an artifact, but restoring a precinct. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Hello, next slide. Yeah. So what we do is, very quickly, the focus for us was to rejuvenate, the urban rejuvenation, and restore the original vision of Town Square as a place for leisure. The photograph on the painting on the top right is a typical leisure, plaza of a typical European town. This is Copenhagen. At the same time as Serampore was being built, and for them, for Europeans, this town center used to be a very, very interesting, lively, action-filled, seat of activities, mainly leisure and art and eating and music, live music. So our vision was to how to restore this, because this is fallen hard times. As you see for this vertical ribbon of photographs, it has fallen on very hard times. Most of these have been abused. The buildings are abused or encroached upon. Shrubberies have grown. There's buses and extempo transport stations have come up. Auto rickshaw stations have come up, and the place doesn't look at all like it was envisioned once. So what we did was, and this is what we're going to run through very quickly, we made a list of all that we needed to do from the viewpoint of keeping all stakeholders today satisfied or reasonably satisfied. So we made a list of precinct character issues as to how to plan for traffic, plan for this, that, as well as some design parameters, how to bring back the character of that, not 18th century, but the character of the precinct as a happening place. The next, please, next slide. Next slide. Yes, so what we did was we just the last slide, there's only one slide after this. We made a broad term parameters of restoration and small term parameters of restoration. The broad term parameters were to restore the main precinct, the east-west corridor, by reintroducing hawking, but in a controlled way, and reintroducing hawking by the vendors by giving proper street lights so that everybody is illuminated well. And we use the old Danish compound wall. This is the main diagram on the left is what is left of the Danish government compound, and we tried to restore bits and pieces of this fabric. But also, more importantly, the walls around the precinct would be used as either wall art or exhibition spaces, historical exhibition spaces, so that people have a sense of belonging. People will think, okay, this is my legacy, this is where it was, what it was, and this is what it has come to. So people have an association with the place, and also the general social surveillance also goes up. It becomes a more secure place. We have stopped traffic. Next slide, please. We rerouted the traffic. Next slide, please. Yeah, we rerouted the traffic. This is the traffic planning so that nothing is into the precinct. Nothing comes into the precinct anymore, excepting emergency vehicles. There was extensive traffic planning around the compound, behind the compound. As you see from blue arrows, we planned for traffic behind the compound, so that the buses, the autos, the VIP cars, the emergency cars, visitors who come to the court, there are two courts here. You have a public vehicles department here. A whole lot of visitors all around there would be controlled, and the main precinct would only be a pedestrianized walkway. No cars within the precinct. Next, please. So the final solution was next slide, please. The final solution was addressing, and there were 13 17th century, 16th century cannons. They were lying in a very derelict condition in a small cubbyhole park at one corner of the precinct. So we made plans for reinstalling, rehabilitating the cannons at vantage points before the Danish compound, the main government compound. Around, we would be restoring the main gate, as you'll see from the diagram here. Restoring the main gate, placing some of the cannons there and some cannons at the Hooghly River bank. Forming a pavilion, a citizen pavilion, where the club and a library would be set up, so it becomes a more meaningful place. And finally, as a major anchoring benchmark point, we make a central rotary with a fountain, and on the rotary, we have we have proposed that instead of a statue of a human being, we place an installation of the first Baptist mission press. That entire mechanism which started the entire, the ball game of Serampore being a seat of learning, international learning, was the advent of the Baptist mission press. So the whole icon, the anchoring icon of that precinct would be the Baptist mission press machine. That was our proposal. It was an extremely, rewarding exercise for us. And that is how architects generally design. You can also conserve of this thing. Thank you. Next slide, please. So next slide, please. So just to recap again, I would say that heritage is for everybody because we all need to remember. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation, sir. Now, moving on to the students, because all the speakers today have given the students so much to think about. So I'd just like to let everybody know that a Google form was circulated among the senior school students of Shishe Academy. And there were a lot of questions, a lot of interesting questions that the students came up with addressed to the speakers. So can we now hear from the students, the questions that have come in?
This question is addressed to Mr. Anindya Basu and is asked by Tanish Bora of 9B. He says, I've been trying to study some of the magnificent architecture of ancient India, including temples and structures with beautiful hand carvings and intricate designs. Can we compare them with present-day architecture? Will it be right to say our ancestors were more advanced than us?
It is a beautiful question. It's a wonderful question and it's going to rattle the nerves of many architects when asked, straight up front. I would simply say that our own architecture, the ancient architecture, was broadly based on artisanship, craftsmanship. And that level of craftsmanship is gone because we have something called Industrial Revolution, which has changed the way we live and we see the world. So since the last 200 years, things have changed vastly, especially the last 200 years in Europe, here maybe 100 years, because the level of craftsmanship is not there anymore. And it is not right to expect that kind of craftsmanship, that detailed labor-based craftsmanship. We have gone more into technology and more into production-based architecture. That is not right to say that we are, we have fallen back on times, but let's say that our ancestral past was extremely rewarding and at par with anywhere in the world. And it's just that we became a colonial country, the colonized country. So we are catching up with the rest of the world, but we are going to soon catch up. Very soon we're going to catch up with the rest of the world. So our architecture won't be inferior to anybody. In fact, it still is in many ways. It's extremely varied, which you won't get in many countries. You won't get this kind of varied architectural styles. Like you have varied cuisine. So our architectural styles are also extremely varied, extremely pertinent, and some of our architects are, in fact, world-famous architects. So we have nothing to worry about, so to say. We look forward, not look back. But of course, we have to we reward, we enlighten ourselves with understanding what our lineage was. I hope I have answered the question.
Thank you, sir. The next question is addressed to Ms. Arpita Ghosh. It was asked by Bharat Tahlani of 10D. He says, Ma'am, I believe our heritage monuments are in a great danger due to rapid industrialization. Could you please share your views on this?
Yes, our heritage property are endangered nowadays, and there are lots of initiatives taken by the Government of India as well as ASI, as well as some private organizations to take care of our cultural heritage. The conservators are continuously working on the cultural heritage property in different museums, but as he asked for the monuments, it's totally depend on the Government of India and the ASI to take care of that monument and all. But yes, they will take some awareness initiatives to safeguard our cultural heritage or the monuments.
Thank you, ma'am.
This question by Rinku ma'am is addressed to Lieutenant Colonel S.R. Banerjee. She's asked that India has been home to so many tribal societies. How do these tribes form an integral part of a rich culture, sir? And what can the future generations imbibe from them? She wanted to know that.
Sorry, can you repeat? I couldn't understand.
Ma'am has asked that India has been home to so many tribal societies over the years. So she wanted to know that how do these tribal societies form an integral part of our rich culture, and what can the future generations like us students imbibe from it?
Okay, as far as the tribals are concerned, we have many tribes within India, and they are nowadays. There is also a act by which they can be part of a forest, the Forest Rights Act. So many of the tribals living within the forest, etc., they get by the Forest Rights Act, they can inherit certain properties within the forest, which others, you and I, cannot. So these tribals also, so that their cultures are protected. That is also seen by there's a department also there on the tribals, and they see to it that their culture are protected. Now you'll find the various in Santal Pargana and other places where these tribals are using their form, and people also, as Dr. Ananda Basu was talking about, the tourism is very important when they come. When the tourists come, they also see these tribal dances, etc. That really they appreciate them. So that is through this. They will keep alive the culture of these tribals. And government is also taking steps so that these tribal cultures, they are protected. It's okay or
No,
anything?
sir, it's perfectly fine. Thank you so much. My next question is to Miss Arpita Ghosh. Ma'am, I wanted to know that what is the scope of textile conservator as a career, and what are the qualifications required for it?
Okay, so basically, to being a textile conservator, first you have to take your master degree in museology and conservation. And after that, as a professional career, you have to, it's good for you that if you go for the conservation training from National Research Laboratory, Lucknow, because it's a very professional training. And then if you have to pursue your career in textile, then maybe you can go for the PhD, or you can go to work with certain museums as a conservator, because when you are getting a master's in museology or conservation, and you have got a degree in conservation also from the professional degree from NRLC, then you will be able to work for certain organization. You will got that opportunity. So for textile, nothing is needed specially, but yes, you have to you have the knowledge of certain stitching and all. You have to understand the different textile pattern, the weaving pattern, and the stitches on it, the color, what thread are used, what type of embroidery is this. You have to identify all this by your own. You have to study about the textile and all, and you have to understand everything, and then you go for the conservation work. First you have to understand the history of textile. Okay, that's
Thank you so much, ma'am.
This question is addressed to Mr. Anandya Basu and has been asked by Chirag Kabra of class 10D. It has been observed that our government is more inclined towards the implementation of modern urban planning at the cost of conservation of heritage buildings, hotels, museums, etc. What is your opinion on this matter, sir?
I think to have a really successful built fabric for any city, any town, you have to dovetail both conservation with, conservation as well as new planning. Because every city in the world today has a mix of the old and the new. Some may be more, inclined towards old and less new, and some may be more new, less old. But every city is generally a mixture of the old and the new. And for any planning, any government initiative or any government model that doesn't integrate the old with the new is a failed model. Simply because, I'll tell you, anybody can understand this. It will be phenomenally costly to rebuild the entire world. To rebuild the entire cities and the entire towns and the entire villages, building by building, if we start building completely new, it would be so humongously expensive that it doesn't make sense to break down what is already there and doesn't cost as much as making a new rather than preserve it. So I think it has to be a judicious mix of keeping what is there intact, preserving it well, and reusing this towards a better use, and as well as parallelly building something new. That is the only way forward, and it depends on the political inclination and there are so many complex issues involved, but the right kind of political will and legislation is what can bring about a successful mix of conserving the old and building something new. I think that is the only right model which is needed to be employed by the government of India and as well as all governments all around the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to ask the next question to Lieutenant Colonel Banerjee. Sir, I would like to know what is the scope of wildlife conservation as a career and what qualifications do I require for this field?
Well, for the wildlife conservation, there are various fields where one can go. First is one is the forest department. Forest department, every forest department, there is an Indian Forest Service where you have to appear the central government, and then you are allotted various states. So here you have to have botany or zoology background, and even for forest they are accepting as physics also in the background. So that is one of the aspects. Then there are various NGOs, like my own NGO WWF, Worldwide Fund for Nature India, which I serve. There you have to have a doctorate, PhD in botany or zoology. So that is the major thing, or environmental science. That is essential. And other things like many wildlife NGOs, they also take people, they select people, but based on their practical knowledge as well. But basic qualification for this side is mostly your science subjects, including botany, zoology, and also environment science.
Thank you, sir.
The very last question is addressed to Ms. Arpita Ghosh. The question is by Swaham Chakraborty of 11E. Have you come across any philosophy or theory which opposes conservation of heritage? If so, how strong are these theories in supporting their point against the conservation of heritage?
Actually, we must conserve our heritage, but nowadays we are mainly think about most indigenous method of preservation, not using the chemical much more into a conservation. We use the preventive measures or some traditional methods. I told you previously that prevention is better than cure. So if we can cure the object by minimum intervention, that is good for each and every object, because we can't stop the deterioration process in conservation. We only can retard or delay the conservation process. So if we take the precautionary measures, that we maintain the humidity, we maintain the temperature, we maintain the light level falling upon the object, then the object will be in good and sound condition. Then we can delay the deterioration process. So there is no such theory or concept that oppose the conservation, but yes, nowadays we basically emphasis is given on the preventive conservation method or indigenous method, that is use of very indigenous material like haldi, like neem pata, like kalo jire. These few methods, kodpur, these are few indigenous things, that the homemade things we are recently used in our conservation. That's all.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay. I would like to thank all the students for their very interesting questions and our speakers for taking the time to answer them. Sushma ma'am, can I now hand over the session to you?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So that was truly very inspiring session for all our students. Thank you so much to all our speakers. We sincerely hope that our students will be more aware and respectful towards their heritage after this event. And also, as all our speakers said, that conservation can be a very challenging career, but we are preparing our students to bravely accept all challenges in life, and definitely they will look forward to conservation also as a career. So I now request Vipasha ma'am to kindly deliver a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sushma. On behalf of the Heritage Club of Sri Sri Academy, I extend my warmest gratitude to all the resource person, Dr. Boishakhi Mitro, Lieutenant Colonel S.R. Banerjee, Dr. Arpita Ghosh, Mr. Anando Boshu, and Ms. Sachika Ghosh for this very insightful, for this very interesting and fascinating session. I would also like to thank our principal, Subina ma'am, our vice principal, Gargi ma'am, our PRO, Rita ma'am, and Arnav sir for providing all support that we needed. And last but not the least, all our thanks to the students for their keen interest and participation. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Dear students, no matter which road you take in life, what career you choose, always have the awareness and willingness to preserve our heritage. Be proud of it. Thank you.